everybody. Happy Friday. John Deb here with Geoff out here. Helvetia Farms Market, Marion Acres. It's a family. It's a thing. Truly a family.
It is.
Two families come together to make this all happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is really cool. And hey, we're here. Spring is coming. Well, we're in the middle of our way to summer. We got some sunshine, all of that. Deb was just talking about it with Geoff. We were getting ready to get started here. This kind of thing, this story, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
This is what we're about. These are the things. These are the stories we want to tell. Written down for people to read and learn about. We were just talking about that. And so thank you, Geoff.
Well, thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it.
And
man.
again, thank you for arranging for the very nice weather. I definitely appreciate that.
But why don't you go ahead and just kind of tell us your history and what your
Sure.
mission is and that kind of thing?
So we have to go all the way back to 2012. I'm talking with a very good friend of mine. His name is John. And he asks me one day, Geoff, if you could do anything you wanted to do and you didn't have to worry about whether or not you know how to do it, what would you do? And I said, well, that's easy, commercial fishing or farming. And so he had an opportunity to work on some land through a handshake deal. So we got onto the ground. It was just a hobby. One thing led to another. We've got a small flock of chickens for eggs, and that opportunity closed. So we're getting rid of the chickens on Craigslist, and the current landowner showed up to buy the chickens. We get to talking, and he's like, "Oh, you should come out and farm in my front yard." And you know, front yard doesn't exactly say farm, but we came out, looked anyway, and his front yard was like 10 acres. So we were there for quite a while. And then he came up to us one day and said, you need to leave. You can't be on the property anymore because you can't grow. You guys are selling out like in the middle of the year before you've even produced everything. So this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna go across the street. I'm gonna build a store. You're gonna do all the stuff inside. I'll put up a barn. You'll do your processing facility over there. And so we said, yes, sir, right away, sir, and came over here. And so we've been here since 2017. The store here opened in 2019, October 4th of 2019. We all know what happened
Shortly after that.
right after that. So very quickly, we were operating a poultry slaughterhouse, a retail grocery store, and a farm, all considered essential businesses, and it was just mash the gas pedal and go as fast as you can go. So we got through that, and then about 2 years ago, I approached John, my business partner, and I've bought him out, and so now everything is just my fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how it works. So so there's actually 3 businesses here. It's Marion Acres is the sort of overall canopy, and the farm. The store is Helvetia Farms Market, and then the processing facility or the slaughterhouse, depending on what crowd I'm talking to, is Helvetia Poultry Processing. So we're one of very few state licensed poultry processors in the state. It's a very high demand service, and there aren't a lot of us doing it, and so it's quite busy.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, we accidentally became vertically integrated, which I'm okay with
You
now.
were there before.
Yeah.
You knew them before.
Yes,
Before
that's
things-
right.
yeah.
I want to just interrupt for a second because I know that Dean asked us to let people know that we're in a noisy location, so you're going to be hearing, cars and people chatting and that kind of thing.
The
But-
front doorbell.
Front
that go,
doorbell.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the farm market, which y'all
But-
got to check out. Trust me.
Abs-
on this
absolutely.
one.
Yeah. But I didn't mean to get us off. You go back to your story.
And that's about it. I mean, we're still growing in different areas, but it's more or less the tweaking of those 3 businesses. We try to do a lot in the community, so I try to take every opportunity to go and get in front of kids at classes, schools. Baby chicks are always a very easy sell. Everybody loves a baby chick. And we're just active in the county, especially Washington County here. Gotten to know a lot of the farmers around, and we're in, as you were saying earlier, I kind of like that description, an agricultural belt at the sort of north end of the Willamette Valley. And that agricultural community, the agricultural community that we are now a part of here, is under threat from development. And so that's one of those unexpected threats that you don't sort of get into it thinking that you're going to have to be too concerned about.
Yeah. That wasn't on the 5-year plan.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
No. But like the weather, to some extent, if you're in this kind of business, you can't be a person that spends a lot of time worrying about things you can't control.
Yeah.
So you've got to focus on the things you can control.
Well, and it's what I doing some research before today, and not just pasture raised for the proteins and what you're doing with the produce and other things, but the sanctuary of bringing in the pollinators and bringing just truly listening to and paying attention to all of those details that are going to change season to season and year to year, but to keep those ecosystems and all of the whole thing just in its own harmony. As
there's indicators, I think nature tells you what kind of job you're doing, and there are indicators of whether you're doing poorly or well. And I think of the barn swallows that show up about this time every year. They would always nest in the eaves over there in the large barn. I want them here. I just don't want them there. So we've made it difficult for them to nest there, and we're in the process of building some stuff for out in the field, because I think, and I'm going to get this wrong, so anybody that fact checks me later will probably have the right number, but it's something like a nesting pair of barn swallows can eat 200 to 300 birds a week or something, some crazy number or a day. And that, they're an indicator species. So the fact that they're here suggests that they have a lot of places to choose from, and here is where they've chosen. Same with the honeybees. Honeybees this year, for anybody that's paying attention to what's going on in the bee world, they've had a remarkably difficult year. 60-some% of the national hives were lost over the winter. And if you know a beekeeper, reach out to them, because they're probably struggling. They're probably having a hard go of it. And it isn't just the honey that we enjoy from those honeybees; it's the pollination services.
Everything.
And
that's
woe
why I
to
wear
us.
this.
Yeah.
Deb's wearing one, and it's
My
my
little bee.
signature.
Yep.
Bees and water, y'all. So I'm like, without those, we got nothing.
Depend on those more than I think the average person understands.
People don't get it.
Yeah.
People don't get it at all.
So I would say, buy honey locally. Don't buy it from a national brand.
No.
Support your local beekeepers. It's important.
Be friendly, be kind, be
Yeah.
all the things, and support the bees.
Well, and buying local everything and anything that you can, think about your neighbors, and how you can support them. I know that, and we talked about this earlier before we got on camera, that there's an expense involved. There's an expense involved in growing something, and it gets diminished up the line when you buy it from corporate sources, because, like you said, because the workers are not being paid well, and there's all kinds of adverse things that are going on to make it cheap. But you pay for it with your health.
Well, that's it.
Because you take this into your body.
It's something I've said for a long time, and I am a very big proponent. I think our next step, as we are starting to get the education of agriculture and farming and these procedures from the organic, regen, sustainable, whichever, however you want to do it, just basic things. Like you said, listening to nature. Mother Nature's pretty rad if we all just pay attention.
She'll tell you an awful lot.
It's right there. But it is the more expensive route many times to do that, because you're going to take care of people and the process and the things. But I tell people, I'm like, listen, you're going to pay for it at one point in time. Do you want to pay for a local, real, natural product? Or do you want to be on all those meds and all those prescriptions down the line because you're full of God knows what?
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit on just the concept that it's more expensive. I would argue it's probably, in the end, less expensive because the bill comes due at some point.
Exactly.
And either you pay the bill or somebody else is going to pay the bill. And I think the commodity pork that's sitting in the grocery store shelves right now, a large part of that bill is being paid by the workers that are in the slaughterhouses. And I also think a large part of the bill is being paid by the environment where the pigs are raised in confinement and their manure lagoons are. Not to demonize farming, because it's not the farmer's fault. Farmers raise food in a way that the customers demand. We're very responsive to customer demand. And right now, in this country, we are demanding cheap food. And it's not that way all over the world. There's certainly a lot of other places that demand good food, which there's a difference. I don't know where we lost the concept. If we look at a car and we think of cars, we intuitively understand the more I pay for a car, the better, quote unquote, that car is going to be. More features, more luxurious, more comfortable, durability. If I pay less for a car, it probably won't last me very long. Somehow we've lost that with food. We don't have this value association with, well, if I pay more for food, it's probably going to be better food. I think we just think of it as, oh, it's expensive. And so I don't know. And it's small things. Like I tell people all the time that I feel like rotisserie Costco chicken is immoral. It's immoral because it's a loss leader, or even if they break even. Costco makes you walk across the entire store to get that chicken. They serve it in a way, and let's not even go into how it's produced or how it's packaged, but they serve it in a way that the consumer is taught one chicken is one meal. And I push back on that with people in the store here. One chicken should be at least 4 meals. You need to learn how to part out a bird like your grandma did, all the time. And then, make your own stock. And you can, one chicken, 2 chickens can feed a family for, an entire week. If we're willing to put a little bit of effort and care into the food that we prepare for ourselves.
When you think about back in the day and you look at, pâtés and all these other things and offal and organs, it's like this was peasant food because all they could afford was this, all the money they could to get this animal, snout to tail, beak to whatever. You're gonna use all of it as much as you possibly can. Like you said, make those stocks, keep it going, do all the things. And
we worked with
and then we started making it expensive. Fine French fare.
It's artisanal. Yeah, we worked with. I don't know if they're still around. It's been a while since I've actually thought about them, but I think they were in Northeast Portland. I think they were called Poshine. It was an interesting sort of church/restaurant, and they were doing some cool stuff. And one of the things they were trying to do is they were going to buy our chicken gizzards, and they were going to serve. And their cuisine in that restaurant was deep south. It was soul food, really good food. So fried gizzards, of course. And I remember talking to the guy that was kind of running the whole thing, and his name escapes me, but he made that comment too, that gizzards were peasant food or poor people food, and that really stuck with me because it made me a little sad on the inside.
Sure.
And he was trying to bring it back, like this is good food. It's still food.
Still solid.
And I think we've managed to do that with the weird cuts in a beef. So if I say brisket, we don't think of that, I don't think anymore as peasant food. It once was, but we don't think of it that way anymore. Somehow we're not able to turn the corner on beef tongue, chicken gizzard, those kinds of things.
All the parts.
I grew up with all that.
We have a responsibility to honor the entire bird in this situation. I know we've probably all heard this before, but it's worth repeating. We are taking the life of an animal, and I point out to people, especially the butchers that work in the slaughterhouse, that bird is not giving up its life willingly. We are taking it against its will. So we have to use all of it, and we have to honor the fact that that bird, gave up the life. And that includes the head, that includes the feet, that includes the gizzard. And again, you can make a lot of food out of one bird if you're willing to put in a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I was looking, Dean, you may have to cut this out, I don't know. But I was looking at your website and I saw all of the chickens being held and all this, and I thought, yeah, but it's not going to end well.
Well, the motto is
Yeah.
all the animals here, we strive to give them a great life
Yes.
and one bad day.
Yes.
And we make sure that one bad day is as good as it possibly can be. And really, that was a big part of why we opened the slaughterhouse, is we wanted control right up until the end, through the end, and then all the way through to the shelf where we sell to the customer.
And it's so much more, and I'm not a farmer. I've lived on a farm, but I'm not a farmer myself. It's so much more honor, as you're saying, to the animal, to the land, and I'm going to lose my train, but just that, the animal is giving up, you are taking. So it's like traditions that thank the animal that they're hunting before they kill it. But anyway, it's a great way to look at it, and it's.
Well, I also think too that honoring the animal is important, honoring the customer.
Yeah.
So being accountable. So with that Costco rotisserie chicken example, if you had a problem with that bird, you could probably go get your refund, but you're not going to affect any kind of change.
No.
If you get a bum chicken from me, it's pretty easy to find out who I am. You're going to hunt me down, or anybody in the store. Maddie is the store manager here. She works with customers all the time. You can go talk to her, and she will come to me, and we'll talk about a problem, and we can make a change in the field or in processing because there's that feedback loop. I think being invited in to a family and feeding them is intimate, and it should be a relationship. I want people to know that Maddie is the store manager, and Melody, Mesa, and Courtney are the processing managers, and Phoebe is the farm manager. I want people to know that there's people, real people, making this food. Yeah. So it's honoring the workers as well. I every year when it gets really hot, and some years, as we know, it can be hotter than others, we typically will get a phone call or two that from people that have driven by, and they're very concerned about either the dogs or the cows that are out in the weather. And I understand the concern, and so we take some effort to explain kind of how the dogs respond in the heat and what we do for them, and same with the cows. I have to say, though, in all the years of doing this, I have never received a phone call from somebody driving by that was concerned about the workers in the field.
Oh, wow.
Not once. And the only time I've ever heard anybody say anything about the workers being out in that kind of weather was during the heat dome of 2020, 2021, when it got to be 120 for 3 days straight. When you have a bunch of poultry outside, that's sort of an emergency situation. You have to be with those birds every 4 hours. So me and my two daughters were out in the field, checking waters, making sure. They still talk about that to this day. And there's somebody I know that works up the road, drove by and saw us in the field. And his comment to me was, "Of course you were out in the field." Yeah. And that's the only time anybody's ever said anything about being out in the field in the weather. And it's not just the heat. It's on the other end of it too. So when it's 15 degrees outside, getting water to everybody can be a lot of work, because you can't leave a hose out with any water in it. You can't use it the next day. So there's a big human side to food production that somehow we lose. And I think to some extent, the industrialization of food wants that on purpose, wants us to not think about the animal that lost its life, the person that made it or grew it or slaughtered it. So anyway, there's a lot to say about all the food we eat.
That. I mean, that disconnection and that what
Yeah,
goes on
so
behind the curtain and the look over here,
Yeah.
you know, and the this and the that, and just give us your money and here's this thing.
Yep.
It's like, well, there's a lot that goes into it,
An awful lot.
and
Well,
very important things.
I read yet again another article yesterday about the plastic that's in our bodies. You know, yet again another one, you know.
3 debit cards, 3 credit cards worth of plastic if you're a regular fish eater.
Well, see, then I guess I should stop eating fish.
Right? Yeah. It's like there's you can't get from any of our water, like across the globe, not just, you know,
What have we done to
Can-
ourselves?
an hour that way.
I so agree.
What have
And then
we
we called
done?
it progress
What
for
have
so
we done?
long, you know.
I
And I'm
so
like,
agree.
and people talk about we got to get back to this, and then I'm like, you know, we just should have stuck with it, you know. I don't, farming by the moon if you want.
Well, and I feel like the style of farming that we do here is old style. It's got very modern. So the way that we move electric fence around, the way we raise beef cattle with mob grazing, and we graze the beef right in front of where the chickens are because the chickens can't be on long grass, and so and then the laying hens come 3 days after where the beef were because they pick through the manure and pick out the fly larvae from the manure. Like there's a whole system, but we wouldn't be able to do that as efficiently if it wasn't for the poly-electric line and the solar chargers, and so there is new parts of it, but the overall style is old, and I don't know why old things have to be new again. They can just be the way we do things. I think we've done a weird thing in this country where we've taken the animals off the land, and so the animals aren't feeding the land anymore with their manure. So the animals, when we take them off the land, develop an environmental disaster with their manure because now you have all this manure you need to do something with, and now the land isn't being fed, so you have to put down fertilizer to feed the land, and we've broken apart a fairly complex and efficient symbiotic relationship between animals and the land.
When you talk about the cows, and I may have said this many times, and so Dean, again, can cut it out if he wants to, but we were talking to
Alana
Alana.
at Shifting Tides.
Yeah,
the Dulce Seaweed Farm out in Garibaldi.
Yeah, and she harvests dulse, and so she was saying, and I could hardly believe this, that if people would put dulse in the cow's food, it would reduce methane by 65%. So, you know, I mean, who would have ever thought about doing that, you know? But there again, you have a natural product of the earth, and it can assist in this way. And, you know, farmers a long time ago, they had wisdom about all of these things. They had wisdom that guided their practices. And it's just like now, you know, natural wine. Well, that was what it was before we started messing with it.
Just wine.
It was just wine.
It was wine. And it was peasant wine. Well,
Whatever.
whatever, but it was a real
farm
thing.
down the street,
and,
you know.
and now you
Smash it and let it get old, man. You know.
Yeah, I mean, so
Get out of the way.
there again, it's like we've gone back to understanding that don't mess with it. You know, just don't mess with it.
Let those experiences and all that, you know, come through the next generation, whether it's within the family or not. I mean, but also, as you were saying, things are a changing.
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, you know, there's a lot to be said about what's going on, certainly at the national level and even the international level. But one little silver lining that I'm quick to mention to people that may feel a little bit frustrated or confused with just the way things are, is that good, bad, or indifferent, a conversation has now been started about preservatives in our food, you know, local food sources, non-industry produced food. And I I will take that as a win. At least that conversation is being had.
Yep.
So there are, if we choose to look at some positive things, we can
Yeah.
point to some positive things
Yeah.
out there.
You're right. And I like your attitude about
Which is just
positivity.
Which is just some self-care and
Yeah.
healthcare.
Well,
and some,
a couple of years ago, so the main agriculture that's out here is grass seed, and when you grow grass seed, you also grow wheat and you grow clover. It's just part of the rotation. A couple of years ago, all the grass farmers had cut their grass so it was down and drying. They have to dry it out, and then they come by with a combine and take the seed out. Well, they cut it, and it was drying, and then it rained 2 days later after they cut. And then we'd have 3 days of dry weather, and then it would rain again. And they couldn't get the combines into the fields to get the seed out. So I was talking to a neighbor who's actually become a bit of a mentor. And I said, like, how long can you go like this? And he says, well, probably one more rain and we're going to lose everything. And it's because the seed starts to sprout. And once it sprouts, you can't obviously use it. And I said, wow, how are you sleeping at night? I would just be twisted up inside. And he laughed and he said, oh, no. I learned a long time ago that if you're worried about that kind of thing, you've got no business being a farmer. And I was like, circle of concern, circle
Yeah,
of influence,
there you go.
keep it where it matters. Worry about the things you can control.
Whew, I want to come follow you around.
I don't know if you do. It's a lot of caffeine.
No.
A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of sugar.
Yeah.
Some
And a
brown
lot of work.
Skittles is what I call Advil.
Yeah.
Wow. No, this is
Geoff, the
so.
farmer, philosopher.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Well, I don't think I'm unusual, though. I think that if you talk to a lot of my peers, a lot of my peers will have thought deeply about all of these issues because our livelihood depends on it.
Yeah.
And we take the duty of feeding our community pretty seriously. And not that veg farmers don't, but we are in livestock and we are dealing with killing animals.
Yeah.
And you have to do some soul searching to figure out whether or not, you're going to be able to put your head down on that pillow at night.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably couldn't be a Buddhist.
I'm not so sure. Yeah, no, I don't think I could. No, I do.
No. I mean, you probably practice those kinds of philosophies.
Well, to be personal here for just a second, I would call myself a Christian. And so my whole life is built around the concept that in order for there to be life, sacrifice has to happen.
Oh.
And it's the same over there. That is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sacrifice that is taking place so that we all can live healthily too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is very compatible with sort of my worldview that there is always a cost. Somebody, somewhere, something, somewhere is always paying the price.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like the seasons, when you get into fall, and I'm like, something has to give up, and like, but you don't have to take that as the dark death, morbid type things. It's like, but this is what brings life, and it's also entering a different phase or a different scenario.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think about what this is.
Yeah.
Boy, if I just put everything in a building, controlled the temperature and the climate and the lighting, I could have no seasons and I could just grow constantly and never stop. And you know what? It turns out people need a break. Animals need a break.
Right.
The land needs a break.
Yeah.
The customers, whether you want them to or not, they will take a break. They're just not shopping and hungry for the same thing in January as they were in December.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. And it's the way it's supposed to be. And there's a cycle. And you work with the cycle and not against it. And suddenly, things are a little bit easier. I wouldn't say they're easy. They're easier.
Sure.
Wow. Well, this has just been lovely talking to you.
This is awesome.
Well, thank you for coming out. I appreciate all the work you guys do too, because I can work diligently away here, and all of the staff here doing the best that they can. But if this doesn't get out past the property boundary
I know.
and touch the people that don't walk through the door, but and don't need to shop at this farm. Maybe they live closer to another farm. I think it's important to get the message out and say, hey, it may be a little bit more money in the short term, it may be a little bit more time, but go start with, and I would always use this as the starting point. Maybe this isn't the best starting point anymore. Eggs. go find somebody selling eggs.
The 2nd of May in 2025.
Yeah.
In a few years, this may not
Yeah.
be the.
It's quite a touchy thing right now. Our flock is producing very well. We have plenty of eggs, and I tell people I go into the walk-in where all the eggs are, and I just feel like a drug lord because I've got all these eggs. But
watching this 2 years,
yeah,
5 years from now.
Start with eggs. That's an easy bar to get over. You know, it's very easy to eat eggs. You will notice a flavor difference.
Yes.
You will be directly putting money into a community member's pocket, and that money. And there's lots of studies that show that money, by and large, returns back directly to the community. And the whole system is better for the fact that you bought those eggs.
Yeah.
Well, and it's such that, eggs, especially in the culinary world, Dean can attest to this, is it's a vehicle for so many things. And also when you look at those yolks and those things from when you're shopping from your local farm that's doing it. Yolk color, low texture, whether you're baking with it, your bread's going to go, or your pancake, like anything, whatever.
It will be better.
It will be better. It will be different.
I do tell people
it's all the way around
to not focus on the yolk color anymore.
Yeah.
Because the large egg producers have caught on to that.
Figured out.
And they now feed marigold petals, and they need the beta carotene. Yeah. And so I do steer people away. I'm trying to get that out there.
Yeah.
The yolk color is not the end all be all that it used to be. We would take our eggs and store-bought eggs to schools. We would crack the eggs and show side by side. It's still worth showing because that yolk stands up taller, and the white doesn't run quite as far. But I've even noticed over the years that yolk color, they're getting pretty close. Pretty close.
Amazing.
Marketing departments.
Somebody's earning their paycheck.
Yeah.
Well, way cool. Anything upcoming out here, Marion Acres?
We always have events. The next one that we're looking forward to is we will have over 40 vendors out here. We've got fresh halibut caught not 24 hours old for sale it'll be next Saturday. It's our big Mother's Day market. Yeah. Mimosas, the whole thing. And then during the summer, Friday nights at the farm. Something different every Friday, every Thursday and Friday now till probably Labor Day. We'll have a couple food trucks out here. So it's a great place to come out and relax. If you've got people from out of town, this is a good slice of Oregon to show them.
Great scene.
Hopefully. Yeah. I have to be here. So I might as well build a company that I enjoy being at and all of my employees enjoy being at, because otherwise, why am I doing this?
I tell people all the different reasons that I opened a oyster and wine bar, but I'm like, really? There wasn't one, and that's what I wanted.
You want to eat oysters and drink wine, yeah.
Drink wine.
Yep. So, funny how that works. Yep.
Like, oh, okay. Well, that's cool. You guys, Marion Acres, Helvetia Farm Market. We will have address and all of that stuff, links to them and their web presence and all that's going on. And this has been cool.
It has been very cool. I've enjoyed it so much.
You guys get out here. I mean, we're on the east side of of downtown in Portland, and it took us 16 minutes, so it's not far.
No,
we are close. We are close.
To get right, to have a complete scenery change, to get out in actually this beautiful, the bucolic and just the rolling. It's just great. And then to meet rad humans, man.
Well, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it.
That's cool.
So get yourself out here.
Yeah. All right.
Come take a look.
Thank you, Geoff. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Dean.
And thank all of you.
Yeah. And thank you guys for all the support and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to see more than us.
Yes.
With all that's going on. So we'll see you out there. Peace and water, y'all. Thank you.